Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wake Up Missoula. I'm your host, Scott Ramp, here to usher you into a new day. A lot of fun things happening, a lot of things with City Council. They are wrapped up their Unified Development Code, but there's a whole bunch of new things happening as well, and I got that and more, including a special meeting with the neighborhoods and Missoula Redevelopment Agency, including Dale Bickle, the Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Missoula, through a neighborhood meet and greet with the public. It is now available on a YouTube page. We just posted it yesterday, so I also added that to my City Council report. So we're going to jump right into your City Council. Your general City Council meeting was very short, about 37 minutes long, nothing much longer, except for one of the main topics they're talking about is the fire department's contract with NE 45 Architecture to create a design standards for their new fire station number 6. The total cost $125,000 for services. Grant application for the build to complete the city's vision of the Mullen Street development. This is a $13 million ask. This was originally a $23.8 million process. They got half of the build grant a couple years back. This year they're looking to reapply for this grant to continue to build out the infrastructure in the particular area. I talked a little bit about it last Friday, but it looks like they really want to improve connectivity and the basic infrastructure of the Mullen Build project as they build all those new homes. Besides that, Eagles Landing is some new property named after the Kim Williams Natural Area near River Road. The meeting kicks off with Susan Campbell-Renaud, who is concerned about the city's response to ICE.
And I was disturbed to hear a few weeks ago that this group as a whole did not want, as I understand it, cooperation with ICE. And I think there has been a misconception in the media. The only community that has not cooperated has been Minneapolis. The rest of the country is cooperating. Hundreds of really bad dudes, and most of them are dudes, are being taken off the streets because they have been repeat offenders, repeat felons, and I want those people out of here. I don't care where they go, but I don't want them hurting my grandchildren. I don't want them hurting you. I don't want hurting anybody that is a law-abiding citizen.
So Susan Campbell-Renaud is very concerned about this industry, especially since a lot of the issues, it is hard to ignore the deaths of U.S. citizens at the hands of federal law enforcement. But while many things are happening across the United States, Missoula has had the advantage of being a blue dot in a red state, which has seldom seen deportations over the last year comparatively to those students at MSU. Mayor Andrea Davis, during comments for the mayor, spoke on public safety and in response.
This is a very contentious issue in our country and quite frankly around the world. And something that was talked about today during the City Club meeting is that our law enforcement, our local law enforcement is committed to upholding state and local laws. We are not in the business of immigration enforcement. We have not been deputized as such, and we have not signed federal agreements to do as such. That said, we do carry forth justice, and if there is a judicial warrant that is issued for somebody that does have a criminal sanction against them, no matter if their immigration status, no matter if they're a longtime resident here or not, we will move forward with justice for a judicial warrant. The difference is that we will not do so for an administrative warrant, which is not issued by a judge. So some of that clarifying information is provided in that FAQ. I would encourage folks to take a look at that. One of the things that I want to emphasize is that our law enforcement and our public safety professionals are here to uphold our public safety here in our community, regardless of whether you're a resident or whether you're a guest.
All right. So that was the response to Susan Campbell-Renaud's concern about not playing ball with the federal government. And that was pretty much it for the City Council in terms of that. But we're going over to committee meetings where Housing Redevelopment and Community Planning dove into the Missoula's land assets. According to this referral, It is to establish by the 2025 Task Force on City Land Redevelopment and how specific projects in the city's portfolio illustrates the city's mosaic approach to redevelopment. So that's the key word, mosaic. So here is Mayor Andrea Davis talking about what they want to aim for.
Overarching approach to our city lands redevelopment is thinking about these. Currently, we have 45 acres that are positioned for redevelopment. These are not lands that are currently being held for, future municipal uses. They've come into the city's ownership a whole host of different ways. And the way we think about achieving all the community goals is more of a mosaic approach than thinking about it as every parcel as a one-off decision making, and each parcel trying to achieve numerous city goals at once.
And one of the bigger issues that are actually coming from this is that Missoula is growing too fast, too quickly, and with some of the local land city assets, especially when it comes to the Southgate Crossing, because that's city-owned land that they're redeveloping for a bigger park, trail connectivity, and mid-level housing. So overall, they want to do an audit of properties to figure out top priority, at least in terms of redevelopment. Part of this has to do with figuring out city's property to help with affordable housing from Front Strip and Homewood representing those properties as well. Mayor Davis also talks about why the city has taken this long to develop the city-owned property, and this is what she had to say.
Sleepy Inn is a good example, the corner of Russell and West Broadway. And so we took a look at a number of these, and I'll be able to provide some updates as we move along. But ultimately, the idea is that we're not sitting on lands poised for redevelopment just to sit on those lands. We want to get them activated. And so we need to be thinking about how we can actually achieve that. Next slide, please. So today we'll mention largely the strategy is focused on outlining our guiding principles and the evaluation framework for making decisions about how to bring projects forward to you as City Council and to the public.
All right, and a big part of, the thing that I take away from this particularly is the fact that they want to figure out exactly what works. Urban renewal districts are the commercial businesses tax that help pay for TIFs for these projects through Missoula Redevelopment Agency. Mayor mentions the public lands is for public benefit. She mentions that time kills deals and making sure that the city has influence on how much influence on properties for development rather than city developed properties. It takes more than just the government to build homes. They also have to leverage because of its land, but not if the developer is losing money, especially when it comes to the cost of materials to build it and the cost of paying their staff, even when their staff is technically not actively working on those new homes, but they still have to pay their employees. So Mayor also gives an example of how city-owned property is being used in a current project, and this is the Riverfront Hotel at the Fox site.
Riverfront Triangle Urban Renewal District. The city has entered into a partnership or into an agreement with the Averill Hospitality Group. They are building a destination hotel that meets the goals of the downtown master plan. There will be conference meeting space there. The city it's really a relatively simple transaction. The city is extending utilities across Orange Street over to the riverfront area that has a real need for redevelopment. And this is an anchor project that's going to nudge the other private parcels next door, we believe, into redevelopment. The other public benefits that we will get in terms of not only extending downtown across Orange Street, the vibrancy that downtown offers, but a large public trail.
And connectivity, and not to mention they're going to have like a kind of like a cool little park in the particular area, kind of like what they wanted to do with Best Read, or the park that's kind of like in that open grass area next to the Holiday Inn Express. They kind of create more of those active spaces for people to have at least some outdoor space to work with. And it's a big part of a bigger picture, because the Fox Triangle under that development is not just this parcel, but is a part of a greater area of the riverfront. John England had some major plans for this site, which included partnership with Dick Chakota out of Logjam Presents to build a bigger and larger conference center for larger groups coming through Missoula, much larger than many other local venues could even handle. Things changed, and so far the property, former Fox Theater, is now moving forward. And for updates on this particular program, this is at engagemissoula.com. And besides that, the mayor also talked about the old public library, which is also city-owned property in lieu of donation after the library here moved over to this new building.
An exclusive negotiation agreement with a development group, DeChase, Mixus, and Edlin and Co. And this project went through an extensive public engagement process in which what I talked about earlier was the result. We had high aspirations, and we overly prescribed what we wanted to see on this piece of property. Those developers attempted to deliver on that mandate. 5 development renditions later, we ended up concluding the exclusive right to negotiate. They could not deliver on what we asked them to.
Yep. And that's also harkens to the Midtown Commons, as I'll talk about a little bit later in my city council report. But, it's just the public engagement process gave 8 examples of what could be there, and had people choosing among those examples. I remember them doing this here at this library, where they had it at the old library, where they had a bunch of boards on the screen, and they put the dots about what they favored, sticky notes, so they can write certain needs and wants from the community. But let's just hope it doesn't become enough office space for government operations and staff as they transition to their new government building, the old Federal Post Office, which is one of the many assets that the city is using for this thing. But at the same time, one of the things is that they've been talking about forever was the redevelopment of the former Johnson Street shelter, which also gets highlighted in these plans. And this is kind of what they want to do for the northern part, otherwise known as Phase 2 of Montana Rail Link Park, or Montana Rail Link Triangle.
What I appreciate about this concept is that they really were considering a few factors. One, changes in code reform. Everybody, this developer, of course, or this development group and consultant group didn't know what the final code was going to be and what it looked like. But they could take a look at what the land use plan was, what the underlying zoning was, and what some possibilities might be with the final approved zoning code. And then secondly, they looked at real market feasibility factors for this, which again is something that as we think about plans for these parcels, we need to really consider what is actually feasible, what's happening in the market today, and what do we think that we can get accomplished to meet these goals.
And if you really look at the imagery and some of the ideas that they have going on here, it really does feel like they're trying to build like another sawmill district kind of area where the Craig Lane meets Wyoming. And you can see some of these buildings kind of like buffer the smaller buildings and condos and other things in this middle area as well. Because it seems like the main building, otherwise known as where the former Johnson Street shelter it will be, is the major kind of like crux of the major development that's coming to the city of Missoula, which is urban residential, where it puts commercial spaces at the forefront of sidewalks for like a barrier between the street and the urban area, and then have easier access for commercial space. Very much like an urban mullet, as I call it. Businesses on the bottom, residential on the top. You got your urban mullet right there. And then we move on a little bit further down in this particular meeting. This is the part of the Midtown Master Plan, which aims to use this space for some time after the railroad company sold to Burlington Northern Santa Fe and liquidated some of their assets and removed some restrictions. This, on top of the Unified Development Code, is making this former Johnson Street shelter into affordable housing. But of course, Mayor Andrea Davis asked questions from the ambitious nature of this particular update, and this is what she had to say.
I mean, some of them are still remediating soil. Some of them have been ready to sell and just haven't yet, right? So all of these properties are at different stages of their own life cycle in some ways. And then thinking about, what properties are actually ready to go? Where should we be spending our time and energy? Which is prioritization for our staff and for you, which is why we've identified what parcels, what elements of these projects for 2026. So like I said, the North Reserve Scott Street master planning process, that is basically creating the master plan for that area of town and reassessing the urban renewal district. There are no projects coming forward within that site where a bond would be part of the financial package. So that's yet to come down the road, right?
All right, so right now these are all planning, and they just want to make sure that these properties have a turnkey option for developers to be like, okay, so the city wants to do this on this particular property. This actually fits into the model of how I've developed in communities in other states, or heck, even in our own community, to best meet up with what Missoula wants. I mean, especially with what's happening at the Mullen Street. I keep on picking on Mullen, but Mullen Road is by far the prime example of what the city really wants to happen in a lot of these kind of untouched areas, so they can kind of mixed use, urban residential, a lot of commercial opportunities, especially with amenities. They even have 55 and older living arrangements over there as well. And according to the developing details, the big benefit of this site alone will go towards funding affordable housing trust fund for the roughly, well, actually, this information, I don't even know why it was here. I should have mentioned it earlier when I was talking about the Fox Triangle, which is going to help generate $7 million for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So any city land that they end up selling through development, and the people who move here in those developed city-owned lands, that money will go towards the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which goes to help bolstering affordable housing. And the city makes bonds to be paid over time, and that's why most consent items get funded every week for this or that. Bonds are temporary, levies are not. So of course it does bear repeating. As we go a little bit further into this meeting as well, before we jump, well, I guess we can jump into the other properties, because I don't need to talk about Mount Jumbo quite yet. I'll talk about Mount Jumbo in a second, but I do want to talk about the Southgate Midtown Commons, because this is a big topic and it has a lot to do with development of a site. And you know, one of the things that they wanted to do is they wanted to make sure that we talk more about things impacting, you know, Missoula, and they held a special meeting this last week. It's up on our YouTube page right now, and I'll share a couple snippets from it, quotes I got from there about the citizens who are not too happy about the city turning over city-owned property to a developer with no provisions on affordable housing. While that's the crux of the argument, the point of these meetings were for the city to take public input seriously, as they reckon with looking at the big picture and ignoring the smaller community impacts in this particular area. So this is very much kind of goes counter to what the mayor's goals are, because the mayor wants to look at a broad sweeping changes in the Missoula, while we have Midtown Commons as just a piece of the big puzzle of redevelopment overall. So Dale Bickle, Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Missoula, responds to some of these concerns, and this is what he had to say during this meeting.
One of the issues that the city has had with redeveloping sites is that when you ask for all of the things in there that we have historically done, it's not economically feasible. The market, the private sector is responsible for developing the community. They actually, private sector actually builds the infrastructure and the parks, all along with development. But the problem is with building this thing is it's not economically feasible, and so that's what's led to this. It wasn't a decision by the task force. These are decisions led to by guiding principles established by that.
All right. And so that was Dale Bickle's response on that. We also have Ellen Buchanan to respond to some of those things. And Missoula's biggest input on the Midtown Commons is park and trail connectivity, but public concerns on the city paying for planning and using the urban renewal dollars for involvement despite the economic limitations. And Ellen Buchanan, MRA Director, talks about those dollars and how far they've gone and how far they're going.
It was a very, very different economic time than what we're in today. Construction costs were much lower, interest rates were much lower, and you could probably have a larger park and fewer, and these were basically mixed use, but primarily residential proposals. You could have, the larger land area being used for park and less being used to develop the portions of the development that pay the bills than you can in today's market. So we're in a different market now. And what could have been done in 2005 or 2008 or 9 can't be done today.
All right. And so that was basically the response from city and Missoula Redevelopment Director Ellen Buchanan. The essential in this economy argument is, and frankly, harkening back to the Unified Development Code, even many cities who are hitting back at some of the cash in lieu for parks, reducing landscaping for more affordable housing. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. City parks are harder to come by in a growing urban-focused city. All this on top of the PROST program, which is to provide parks, recreation, and trails to across the city of Missoula, on top of the new development that's happening. All this on top of many people who are getting priced out of their homes as values rises and tax assessments are following. This also brings up a current lawsuit on the taxable value of homes in Montana, as the suit claimed 90% of homes in Montana were overvalued. So this is actually leads into a story through KPAX. I know I kind of wanted to wait on this a little bit because I wanted to have this wrap up my city council report, but I'm going to jump into Mountain Jumbo after I mention the KPAX story, where the Montana Department of Revenue is getting sued in a class action lawsuit with over 200 property owners in Montana, claiming that the legal range inside the sale values between July 1st, 2023 and June 30th, 2024 were misvalued and overvalued. KPAX had the story from yesterday afternoon. Silverman Law Office CEO Joel Silverman says their independent expert estimated that 90% of the properties were overvalued. Thus far, DOR has not made comment. So that story just broke yesterday, and it's going to be an ongoing thing. Maybe the class action lawsuit will give property owners some reprieve and some money back for some of those taxable assessed values. We had a pretty big surplus of tax here in the state of Montana the last couple of years, where we had those stimulus checks that came back to us. So there's going to be some interesting reckoning that's going to be happening after the fact as we move forward with this. But we're going to talk a little bit more about another meeting through the Climate Conservation and Parks, featuring the basically Mountain Jumbo, the mountain as a whole, the mountain with the giant L on it. That's closed for elk grazing, and it's going to be closed until March 15th, but they're looking to try to even extend that even further till 1st of April. So Jeff Gickelhorn, Conservative Lands Management, gave a presentation about the Mount Jumbo winter closure.
History of Mount Jumbo goes back, at least from city ownership, goes back to 1997 when the city purchased the mountain, really to protect critical elk winter range that was using 1995 open space bond funds. In 1999, the first year of the winter closure was implemented after the adoption of the Mount Jumbo management plan. In 2010, the city's conservation lands management plan really reaffirmed that winter closure. Unfortunately, in 2014, we had an urban avalanche due to a trespasser on the mountain. And then in 2015, Parks invested heavily in updated closure signage and strategies. And then this will be related to reopening dates. In 2021, we also invested, or maybe I should say, upgraded our spring green up monitoring protocols in consultation with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks to make sure that the decisions we were making to reopen or when to reopen the mountain were as scientifically based as possible.
All right. So a big part of this just has to do with the fact they don't want to repeat any of this information. The fact that it started out back in December and now it's kind of like mid-February, and they're just like, oh yeah, we probably should hearken and remind people that this is an important issue to keep the wildlife grazing of the elk herd. Jeff also talks about the March date and how they want to extend it a little bit longer.
That really, since the increase in the quality of our monitoring data, we are realizing that that March 15th date that was set into ordinance back in 1999 is a little too early most years for the vegetation, right? So the vegetation has to grow to a suitable height to allow elk to be able to utilize that vegetation in the spring. And in most cases, that's later March, closer to April 1st, rather than that March 15th date. We are also seeing that May 1st date for the North Zone is actually quite suitable. And in most cases, our vegetation is at the appropriate level by that May 1st date. We've only extended past May 1st 4 times in the last 15 years, and that's only when we've extended the South Zone past April 1st. So it basically takes a very heavy, extensive winter to extend the North Zone.
All right. So yeah, there's definitely a lot, impacts to the wildlife, potential for urban avalanche with heavy snowy years, increased habituation to people, loss of wilderness, and also elk just wandering in town, just like the urban deer that we have been basically dealing with for the last 50 plus years, for sure. Let's see. Okay, so in terms of enforcement, Jeff also talks about trespassing thus far this last year and talks about some of the efforts they've made to curb those trespassing.
This year we're seeing an unfortunate significant increase in trespass. We don't have an exact number because I think we're paying better attention this year, but we're estimating a 200 to 300% increase over just last year. And that is likely due to the very poor winter conditions, right? So most of the time, trails on Mount Jumbo get snowed out or iced out, and people don't really want to go up there. That's not the case this year. So while we're seeing a moderate increase further in the south zone, in the L Trail area, we're actually seeing a very significant increase in the saddle and backbone area. So this is the area of the mountain north of the summit, just above the Lincoln Hills neighborhood. And so we are seeing, many-fold increase in that area of trail use. And so we have compliance monitoring cameras. We've documented a significant increase in trespass. You can see the photos here showing some of our closure signage, really very clear signage saying the area is closed, and we have snow fencing blocking many of our trail access points as well.
All right. Just think about it as, you're putting pesticides or whatever on the grass, and you're telling your kids not to step on the grass on the lawn, or they might get sick from it. So saying that there's no sign ain't good enough. Protect the elk from human habituation, which we'd have to deal with some territorial mammals twice the size of urban deer, if not bigger. They also got cameras to catch people trespassing in those areas. Education can only go so far as open space is large, and there are only so many people that can enforce it, and also people can't help themselves from posting pictures of their trespass. So like any criminal trespass, this also has a fine of $500 with a maximum of 6 months in prison. So you want to look out for that. And also, if you want to take a look at the herd or look at any of the mountains, there is a telescope on the 3rd floor of the Missoula Public Library facing the Mount Jumbo area. People use it to look over at the elk herd as they pass and they graze through here. And as we talk more about things impacting Missoula, I also wanted to mention that MCAT has produced a bunch of new programs on MCAT just this last week alone. And so we have a fair amount of brand new programs for you guys. Here are some of the new programs airing on MCAT. You can watch right now on our MCAT YouTube page at MCAT TV Missoula.
And because we know also, I'm curious what the economic data says, but in all of the organizing that I've ever done, when you talk about healthcare, we're all going to be sick at some point, right? Nobody's going to not be sick. Maybe a few of us will live a lovely life and, and fall off the roof and that's it. But most of us not, right? That this is mutually, we have to come together and we have to have a system that takes care of all of us when we are at our point when we need the most help. And for most of us, that point will come. And so I think the action has to be, we have to tell stories. And it seems really simple, but I think that facts are wonderful. I think that there's a lot of misinformation right now, so it's hard to tell what is fact and what is not.
And this is the NPR Engine 1356 after it was brought and displayed in Missoula in 1955. Now, while Engine 1356 has stood at the head of Missoula for the last 7 decades, it does need some help. Janine Nixon, Dan Hall, and the rest of the friends of Engine 1356 are actually working to restore the train, hopefully to get the light and the steam whistle going again. Now, fortunately, it does still represent a large portion of Missoula's history. But the cooler thing that I think to mention is that hopefully the engine will be listed on the National Register of Historic Places in the near future.
Staff and researchers monitor and record development for both quality, control, and educational purposes, ensuring each chrysalid is healthy and ready for its journey. Transporting butterflies is a delicate, time-sensitive process. Each package must make its way from El Bosque Nuevo to San Jose, which is about a 4-hour drive, where it is carefully rechecked and repackaged to ensure nothing has gone wrong. This step is crucial. The right packaging, temperature, and handling can make the difference between a healthy butterfly and a butterfly that doesn't survive the trip.
The requirement that federal land management agencies must engage in, and I quote, meaningful public involvement in plans, regulations, and programs. Now, just as Hillary was mentioning, the initiation of this rule held all these meetings, 600 nationwide, 34 here in Montana, and it made a difference. Now, how many officially sponsored public meetings has there been for the rescission of this important rule? Now, unless I'm missing something, it's 0.
Say hello to the Great Falls of the Columbia, Celilo, or the Dalles if you've been down to Oregon. And this is a place that has an archaeologically documented history of 15,000 years of people fishing there. Communal fishing sites that, families pass down their platforms from generation to generation, God knows how far back. 15,000 years, that's a heck of a lot of fishing. You're using dip nets there because, this place is so special for a reason. The Columbia River at the Dalles goes from almost 2 miles wide down to 75 feet at its narrowest point. You have over 30, 40 million salmon swimming up the river every single year. Any river, any stream that is above those falls, every single one of those fish has to pass through that little 75-foot gap.
All right, welcome back. Let's talk about some movies that are coming out this weekend. It's time for Pre-Critic, where I judge movies based on absolutely nothing but my biases towards movies and whatnot. Here's yet another one of those stories of old, unfinished love. It's like kids who fall in love, they go away, then they rekindle later on down the line. And this is basically kind of like one of the books that was made in the Victorian era kind of thing as it expanded further on. And the book series that has been adapted every 10 years or so brings up Margot Robbie and the hot guy from the Frankenstein movie, the monster for some reason, in this story about a star-crossed lovers reconnecting after years apart. While this isn't anything new, this is roughly a story that is in most erotica novels of a woman who is about to be married, only to rekindle feelings for a long-lost love. Hallmark movie original, essentially, where you have a rich person or a busy CEO girl goes back to her hometown, discovers an old flame, chooses them over their marriage. So that's basically the Wuthering Heights, all these kind of like old school movies, especially in that era. Victorian era movie too also is very much like, oh, these are like Hallmark original movies, but these are period pieces as well. So if you really think about it, they're all just Hallmark original movies. Good luck, have fun, don't die. Yet again, we have one of those long title films that I have to read out because I can't remember it off the top of my head because the scheme is just so confusing. Essentially, this is about a time-traveling guy who's attempted this more than 100 times, but it follows pretty much the last hurrah of these folks fighting against the machine. It's very much AI-coded, taking over the world, and it's up to Sam Rockwell's character in this picture right here to convince a bunch of people at a diner to stop looking at their phones and save the world from AI. Good luck with that. If it was real, it probably wouldn't work. But GOAT! Sony Animation is back with their Zootopia movie-esque thing, but this one's about sports, movie about basketball, playing a goat trying to be the greatest of all time, hence the GOAT, which is the acronym. But more or less is about not being born with the natural gifts and proves them wrong. Probably a screaming goat reference from 10 plus years ago will be a recurring joke throughout this movie. We also have Crime 101. This is one of those kind of movies that are just like, oh yeah, this is also coming out this weekend too. Thor and Bruce Banner try a non-Marvel movie about committing crimes and being pretty white collar about it. Heist movies are like, we have to assemble a team of skilled thieves looking to get the one thing from the place, but in modern movies, they're thieves for good. Because they know all heist movies have to do with the fact that, oh, these aren't real criminals. They're stealing from the worst criminals, corporate, evil, that kind of stuff. So you can kind of see where I'm going with this, but in a lot of ways, it's kind of like Hollywood kind of codes us to be that way, which is kind of funny with that influence. But without further ado, here is another Dubbin Stuff for you guys from the 1942 comedy film, So Is Your Aunt Emma.
It's the big fight between heavyweights John Johnson and John Turkey Johnson. You got a left hook sneaking in there, looking to get some distance.
Oh, I just love this.
All right, got money on John Turkey Johnson. All right. Yeah, they're looking pretty good. Looking pretty evenly matched. One's a little bit taller, but yeah, I don't know. Wow, it's like they're not even really trying hard. Some karate moves there.
So, if I understand this correctly, they need to keep punching each other until one of them stops being punched?
Excuse me, I'm on the phone. Do you mind? You got some illegal bets.
Huh, this isn't quite the tea party I was promised.
All right, $50 more on Johnson Turkey Johnson.
You can do it, Turkey. Come on, I got 50 bits on you. You gotta win. You gotta win, Turkey. I believe in you.
Oh, I don't know if Turkey's actually gonna win, but you can keep trying.
Oh, nonsense. Look at the old rope and dope. They know what they're doing. I think they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah, more of that. Don't look at me.
All right, that's enough for you two. In your corners.
Oh, are they done?
All right, another 50. No, don't talk to him.
Oh, hold on a second. I gotta talk to Turkey.
You're not supposed, whatever.
Hey, Turkey Johnson, listen. Now you gotta punch him real good, you hear?
I'm trying my best, Auntie Silvers.
Well, if you're gonna inherit my gold, you're going to have to do what you gotta do. I totally told him I was gonna give him gold.
You got gold?
You can do it. Second wins. Oh, who broke wins? Oh, come on, you can do it.
All right, let's double down on Turkey Johnson. I think he's gonna win.
Is he supposed to let the other guy hit him that much? Is he gonna lose, like, points or whatever?
As long as he gets the knockout, he should be okay.
Is he gonna win?
I don't know. Yeah, you think you can pick up a cheeseburger and fries after that? Yeah, I'm almost done here. Oh, you think you can beat me? Oh, yeah. Oh.
Show him some moxie with your boxy. Is that good, smash talk?
I think it's called trash talk, but sure.
Come on, break it in his face. I want you there. Oh, jeez.
All right, that's 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready, and you're out of here. The winner, Turkey Johnson.
Look at that.
All right, second round within 3 minutes, and the burger should be warm this time.
Oh, never bet against turkeys, because they got the talons, right?
Well, technically, turkeys aren't that scary if you really think about it.
Oh, well, agree to disagree. My nephew performed very well at his recital. I really like this boxing thing. Do you think I could do it?
Well, lucky for you, we got all the access to the training coaches. You'll be a contender before you know it.
I know the perfect first fight. Marilyn, my neighbor. She sucks.
Oh, we'll see what we can do, for sure.
Have you ever heard of bare knuckle? Or maybe some MMA? I don't want to use just my hands.
Sure. Let's talk about it over dinner.
Hey guys, welcome back. Let's talk about some news that are happening in and around Missoula, Montana, and the world. As we talk a little bit more about this whole ICE issue, Police Chief Mike Collier spoke at this week's City Club with Sheriff and Fire Chiefs talking about safety in Missoula. He fielded questions of ICE and mentioned prioritizing their job in disregarding ICE involvement within the police. They retain the right of local residents and promise to uphold the law as written. Also, those lines came about mental Health Services, which prompted their new fire station number 6 discussion. Their goal is to have a station near the intersection between Russell and 3rd Street, emphasizing the need to be closer to Reserve. They wanted to work on a wraparound service to get more reliable data for the sake of expanding services and relieve police presence for the mobile support team. This isn't anything new, but it does bear repeating. Missoula isn't too keen on ICE, as protests have happened in our fair city despite the presence of ICE agents since sweeping immigration detainment began last year. Helena is also getting flack from Montana State Governor Gianforte and Attorney General Austin Knudsen, with communities growing concerns with lack of due process for folks who are here legally or illegally being detained without any clear framework, rather than the weak argument that they are here illegally, they don't have the same rights as citizens. That being said, Helena officials have claimed that they would not cooperate with ICE or federal agents following the crackdowns in Minneapolis. So Gianforte, in a statement through Montana Free Press, stated, quote, "These tragedies, no matter how unfortunate, do not give local government the right to ignore laws that have been passed by the state of Montana." Quote, Gianforte said, "In 2021, I signed a House Bill 200. This legislation explicitly bans sanctuary cities in the state of Montana. Under this law, no state or local government can enact policies that refuse cooperation with federal immigration authorities." Being a red state, Montana has not been targeted like many of those other blue states, which has met federal agents with protests that many levels of harassment over the last year. A lot of things are pending, especially with a lot of legality that's going back and forth. Helena passed a resolution which stated the resolution orders that the Helena Police Department not to sign a partnership agreement with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. The agreement is known as the 287 agreement. Police are asked ICE agents to remain unmasked and to identify themselves unless doing so would hamper federal work. While this is what they wanted, the state saw this as an attack against federal agents, as Helena went too far with this resolution. AG took aim at Helena, saying, Austin Knudsen said, quote, "This is clearly the City Commission of Helena thumbing their nose at the Montana legislature." He said, "The City of Helena does not make state law. I encourage it to retain counsel. Get a lobbyist, come to here to Capitol during the 2027 legislative session and take its best shot at changing the law. And in the meantime, we will enforce state law as passed by Montana legislature and signed by governor," end quote. Helena responded that they will comply with federal and state law, and this is more ideological rather than a public and local government response to a national issue that has been affecting local communities, public safety, and health concerns overall. Missoula didn't pass any resolution, but Police Chief Mike Collier confirmed that the city already has rules against face coverings unless they are for winter or COVID-related pandemic-era policy. Just as our water basin was, okay, that kind of wraps up that story, but I'm going to transition to the water basin. It was looking good and just in time for the year. The snowpack isn't, leading to concerns of yet another dry Montana going into the spring and summer months. While Florida got snow, hydrologists in the U.S. Department of Agricultural Natural Resources Conservation Service warns that while there is still time for Montana snowpack to recover, most of the western river basins are reporting well below average numbers. According to the NRCS Water Supply Outlook report published at the start of February, most major river basins saw between 10% or 30% decrease from a month ago, when higher elevations were at exceeding 20-year medians. So reports come out the Daily Montana that they mention that this isn't a record-breaking drought, but is still a bad sign in terms of projections. The imbalance also comes from the Whitefish Range. For example, the Stell Peak Snottel site is reporting 24.5 inches in the southwest corner, 111% of median snowfall, while the lower elevation of Grave Creek has only about 4.2 inches, 41% of the median for that year. So it is very true when it comes to the haves and have-nots in terms of snowpacks, as many places in Montana have the benefit of rivers and streams to transfer large amounts of water despite our 16 inches of precipitation annually. If we didn't have any rivers that flow through the state of Montana, we would pretty much just be as dry as any of the other communities, any other places in the Midwest. Although with the warm temperatures, the U.S. Drought Monitor shows that the state saw a 10% increase in areas experiencing drought conditions during the last month, with 63% of Montana under some level of drought. While this is just in the middle of a snowy season in Montana, some higher elevations could see snow as late as May. So there's hoping still out there. While water is a part of the human experience, wastewater is looking to cost millions of dollars in the city of Missoula. KPAX reported this story this week, and the Clark Fork River has been used as a dumping ground for sewage for many years. And while the wastewater treatment plant goes on to cleaning down the river, some pipes need repair, and the cost could be anywhere between $5 to $11 million. And so the pipe of concern is the one that brings in raw sewage from the south side of town into the plant, which runs to the Clark Fork River. The pipe was installed in 1963, and it was buried below the riverbed, and it is also a reinforced concrete pipe and it's what is called a rubble cap. It's like a rock embedded in concrete that was there to protect the pipe, but parts have broken off, according to a city water engineer, Logan McInnes. He also mentions that the cost could range between the $5 to $11 million, depending on what type of replacement is chosen, a siphon or a pump system overall. Luckily, the local government said the state would be able to help cover the costs as it falls under major infrastructure improvements. This is something that could be completed within the next 2 years. So that's pretty much it for some of the updates and other things that are going on. Of course, I did mention that the taxable value, overvalue assessment class action lawsuit is going into effect. And so there's a lot of things moving forward in terms of that. So let's talk about some events that are happening in and around the city of Missoula. I might have a short show today, so I'm going to try to breeze right through this. And if you're interested in being in a Mommy and Me workout class, this is a daily thing that happens Monday through Friday in Bonner Park, starting at 9:30 a.m. Bring your kid or baby in a stroller and just have some fun activities happening there. Little Club's play group is at the Sports Barn, some indoor fun there. Open curling, so the Winter Olympics is pretty much going to be wrapped up soon, if not already. The open curling is happening at the Glacier Ice Rink, happening at 10 a.m. today. Missoula Food Bank meal distribution, they have a daily thing happening there for people who are struggling with food insecurity. It's opening from 10 to 1 p.m. today, including their Empower Place, which is great for kids. And they have their part science exhibit, community space, and library. 50% off sale, Secret Seconds, starting at 10 a.m. at the Secret Second store. All proceeds go to the YWCA to help benefit those people struggling with domestic violence and also family homelessness. Introduction to Pickleball at the Lifelong Learning Center, starting at 10:30 a.m. Lifelong Learning Center is a great way for people to pick up some additional education classes. They pay per class rather than sign up for a whole system and get certified in many different things. Tiny Tales at Missoula Public Library every Friday at 10:30 a.m. Preschool Playgroup at Roots Sports Acro Sports Center. This is an indoor fun for kids who, if it's too cold outside, they want to go inside. This is another good place to do it. Lunch and the Missoula Senior Center. Lunch at the Missoula Senior Center. This is a daily occurrence that happens Monday through Friday. And if you're interested in doing that, it's pretty cheap. It happens every daily, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. They also have a lunch service at the Poverello Center around the same time, but this happens every single day, including holidays. Yarns and Watercolor, noon every Friday at the library on the fourth floor. On the fourth floor, it's all about the arts. All Abilities Art Club at Base, starting at 1 p.m. This is a recurring event as well. Brown Bag and Bones with paleontologist Jason Seapool at the Montana Natural History Center at 1 p.m. on Friday. Young Adults Writers Group here at the library at 3:30 every Friday. Learn computer animation with Blender. So as opposed to the Monday class at 6 p.m., we do a Friday class here in the studio every Friday at 4 p.m. at MCAT's inside the Missoula Public Library. MCT Youth Service, Sherlock Holmes. So MCT is putting on their children's theater play at 5 p.m. and they have a later show at 7 p.m. The game is afoot. The Missoula Children's Theater presents Sherlock Holmes, an adaptation of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's classic adventure with help of his trusty companion Watson. Holmes embarks on the captivating caper through Victorian England, meeting many colorful characters along the way, because they got a lot of kids and they got a lot to play extra parts. So you got to make sure each kid gets a spotlight at some point. Galentine's Sip and Shop at the Residence Inn in Missoula. So Galentine's Day weekend is upon us as we go into Valentine's Day on Monday, the 16th, which is also happens to be President's Day. So at 5 p.m., Residence Inn's the Galentine's Sip and Shop. Galentine's Day Hearts of Fire Pottery and Art Studio. They have teen after hours on Valentine's Day party at the Missoula Public Library at 6 p.m. and this is for teens grades 7th to 12th grade to join them on the library's second floor for food, fun, and the great company. Dress up, dress down, bring a date, bring a friend, a frenemy, or just yourself, up to you. The library doors lock at 6 p.m. So show up at the library, second floor before closing. So after hours, fun time with the teens. Have fun with planetarium show at the Missoula Planetarium at the University of Montana the Payne Family Native American Center. They have a 6 p.m. show and a 7 p.m. show doing astronomical anomalies. Sweetheart Skate at the Glacier Ice Rink. So this is your Sweetheart Skate happening at Glacier Ice Rink, Valentine's Day kind of weekend type stuff happening at 6 p.m. tonight. Karaoke at the Jack Saloon at 7 p.m. Sacred Alley is doing their Restful Heart Cacao and Restorative Sound Ceremony at 7 p.m. Benevolence is going to be performed at the Old Post at 7:30 p.m. Love Struck Valentine's Day Party at Monk's playing some DJ music at 7 p.m. Jones End Band's going to wrap up your Friday night at Union Club at 9 p.m. And then as we head towards the weekend, Saturday Winter Market and such happening every single Saturday until the farmers markets and River City markets happen outside starting in May, but they're doing it indoors at Locals Only in Badlander and also inside the Southgate Mall next to Shields. Heartthrob 5K, the Target Range School Gym is hosting a Run Wild Missoula is to present the 5K 80s edition, Fueled by Love. This will be a great day to celebrate diversity, inclusion, and individual experiences of truth. Let's go together and embrace that love is love, happening at 10 a.m. at the Target Range School Gym on Saturday. Line dance at Missoula Senior Center every Saturday at 10 a.m. Makerspace walk-in hours here at the Public Library starting at 10 a.m. as well as Teen Open Studio at the Missoula Art Museum at 1 p.m. MCAT Saturday drop-ins for kids doing some stop animation from 1 to 3 p.m. And then we also have another kid activity for kids age 5 to 12 at the Missoula Public Library talking about children's well-being through nature workshops. And so this is led by students of the University of Montana's Frankie Global Leadership Initiative. Each week explores a new topic and activities such as seeding plants, paper making, and bird feeders. And this happens on Saturday at 1 p.m. And then, of course, Lady Grizz are taking on Montana State starting at 2 p.m. with the Grizz Cat Winter Prep Rally Rail Jam leading up to the Grizz Cat game of basketball. And that's happening, so they have a bunch of things happening, starting with the Lady Grizz games, and then between it, you have the Rail Jam competition, Epic Bonfire, fireworks, and then the Grizz basketball at 7 p.m. at the Dahlberg Arena. So you have the women's at 2, men's at 7. Don't want to miss it. Weird Montana Record presents Valentine's Day. At 6 p.m., Weird Montana Records presents Valentine's Day for the punk rock speed dating at the Missoula Midtown Event Center. It's going to be featuring music and trivia hours with many different things, comedy by Sarah Ashwell and more. Cringe, a Love Story, also happening around the same time as well. Love is Awkward. Artists anonymously prove it with embarrassing stories, cursed text, strange encounters, and love letters they regret. Monks presents Hot Dog Party at Bluegrass at 8 p.m. Argentine Tango Social Dance and Intro Lessons at 8 p.m. Solid Snake Karaoke at the Westside Lanes. Solid Sound, sorry I said Solid Snake, but Cash for Junkers, DJ Chris Moon every Saturday at 10 p.m. at the Badlander. And then Sunday, we're going to have some speed puzzling at the Draftworks, Stitch and Bitch at the Space DIY Studio, Bonner History Roundtable, where they're doing a partnership with Bonner School, invites communities for the 50th anniversary of Norman McLean's acclaimed series, A River Runs Through It, and attendees will enjoy extended clips from the film adaptation and view displays of Bonner students. Can't Drink Salt Water is a play at the University of Montana. Montana Repertory Theater presents a partnership with the UM Theater and Dance, Can't Drink Salt Water by Kendra Potter. And this is the world premiere of her play, the opening night, juxtaposing a mother's relentless search for her missing daughter with a journey of a young woman newly arriving at Bethel House, an evangelical shelter for victims of sex trafficking. This timely story weaves together native identity, maternal grief, contemporary religious faith, humor, and call to action. This production showcases professional indigenous talent from across the country, and this is happening pretty much all through February, with the last show on the 22nd for their matinee at their 2 p.m. But then they have more weekend shows happening this weekend and next. Queer Prom presents Animal Wonders, so at the Western Montana LGBT Center, the old MCAT site, and the old 500 North Higgins. Queer and LA teens aged 13 to 18 are come to welcome to see Animal Ambassadors of Animal Wonders on February 15th from 3 to 5 p.m. at the LGBTQ Center here in Missoula. NFL Bingo at Tamarack at 5 p.m. 5:30, Stephen Hoop is hosting the 4th annual Wine, Whiskey, and Wisdom. Dram Tough Trivia at the Dram Shop, doing some trivia at 6 p.m. Jazz at the Draftworks at 6. Hayes Carl at the Top Hatch playing some country music at 7 p.m. And then karaoke wrapping up on your Sunday at 8:30 p.m. at the Sunrise Saloon. The comedy at the VFW is kind of suspended as they figure out the restructuring at the VFW, as they are also closed. So yeah, there's not much else going on this weekend, and I want to thank you guys for joining me. And for Wake Up Missoula, I'm Scott. So take care. Here's a little fun thing made by our own Josh Cook.